There's a plant growing in your yard right now that could land you in federal prison. Not marijuana, not poppies, something far more common, something you probably walk past every single day. In 2019, a grandmother in Oregon was fined $12,000 and faced criminal charges. Her crime? Growing a decorative plant she bought at a nursery. She had no idea it was illegal. The nursery didn't tell her, and by the time authorities showed up, she'd been cultivating it for 3 years. Today, I'm revealing 17 plants that are banned, restricted, or outright illegal in various jurisdictions. Some carry felony charges, others trigger mandatory property inspections, and at least one is probably in your garden right now. Let's start with the most dangerous. Section 1. The Opium Producers. Plant 1. Papaver Somniferum, Opium Poppy. This is the big one, the plant that produces morphine, codeine, and heroin. Here's what makes this tricky. Ornamental poppies look nearly identical. Papaver somniferum has been bred into dozens of beautiful garden varieties. Bread seed poppies, which produce the seeds on your bagels, are the exact same species. Federal law prohibits growing opium poppies with intent to produce drugs. But here's the catch. Intent is subjective. If you have more than a few plants, authorities can argue intent. In 2014, a man in Pennsylvania was sentenced to 5 years for growing 200 opium poppies in his backyard. He claimed they were ornamental. The jury didn't buy it. The plants themselves aren't automatically illegal, but possession of mature pods can trigger charges. Once the petals fall and the pods swell, you're in possession of a controlled substance. How to identify them? Large, showy flowers in pink, purple, red, or white. Bluish-green leaves with a waxy coating. Seed pods the size of a golf ball that develop after flowers drop. If you have these and didn't intentionally plant opium poppies, remove them immediately. Don't harvest pods. Don't collect seeds from mature pods. Just remove the plants. Plant 2. Argemone Mexicana, Mexican prickly poppy. This one surprises people. It's not even a true opium poppy, but it produces similar alkaloids. Restricted in Australia, parts of India, and several U.S. agricultural zones. The plant contains toxic compounds and is considered a noxious weed that threatens livestock. Grows wild across the southwestern United States. Yellow flowers with prickly stems and leaves. If you're in an agricultural area, check local noxious weed lists. Penalties vary, but in some counties, landowners are legally required to eradicate it and can be fined for non-compliance.
Section 2. The Psychoactive Plants. Plant 3. Lophophora Williamsii, Peyote cactus. Federally illegal in the United States, except for registered members of the Native American Church practicing religious ceremonies. Peyote contains mescaline, a Schedule I controlled substance. Growing it, possessing it, or selling it outside of religious exemption is a federal felony. Maximum penalties: 5 years in prison for first offense, 10 years for subsequent offenses. The cactus is small, spineless, and slow-growing. Takes 7 to 10 years to reach maturity, but possession of even a small button is illegal. Plant 4. Banisteriopsis Caapi, Ayahuasca Vine. This vine contains harmala alkaloids and is a primary ingredient in ayahuasca brew. Legal status is murky. The plant itself isn't scheduled, but DMT, which it's combined with to create ayahuasca, is Schedule I. Courts have ruled both ways on whether possession constitutes intent to produce a controlled substance. In 2019, a case in California resulted in charges being dropped, but defendants spent 18 months in legal limbo and tens of thousands in legal fees. If you're growing this for ornamental purposes, you're walking a legal tightrope. Plant 5. Salvia Divinorum. Illegal in 29 U.S. states, plus Australia, Denmark, Italy, and many others. Salvia contains salvinorin A, one of the most potent naturally occurring psychoactive compounds. Even though it's not federally scheduled in the U.S., state laws are aggressive. In Virginia, possession is a Class 6 felony carrying 1 to 5 years in prison. In Florida, it's a third-degree felony. The plant looks like common sage but with larger leaves and a more sprawling growth pattern. If you're in a restricted state, possession of the living plant carries the same penalty as possession of prepared leaf. Plant 6. Psychotria Viridis, Chacruna, the DMT-containing leaf used in ayahuasca preparation. Same legal gray area as the vine. The plant itself isn't explicitly scheduled federally, but the DMT content makes it prosecutable under analog laws. Multiple arrests have occurred for cultivation, typically in conjunction with other evidence of ayahuasca production. Section 3. The invasive species. Plant 7. Fallopia japonica, Japanese knotweed. In the UK, this plant can destroy your property value and land you in court. Japanese knotweed is so destructive that mortgage lenders refuse loans on properties where it's present. Under UK law, allowing it to spread from your property is a criminal offense, carrying fines up to £5,000 or 2 years in prison. The plant grows 3 meters tall, has bamboo-like stems, and spreads through underground rhizomes. A single fragment of root can regenerate into a new plant. It burrows through foundations, cracks concrete, damages drainage systems, and is nearly impossible to eradicate once established. In the U.S., it's listed as a noxious weed in multiple states. While criminal penalties are rare, property owners can be sued for damages if it spreads to neighboring land. Plant 8. Heracleum Mantegazzianum, giant hogweed. This is the plant that can actually harm you, and growing it can trigger criminal charges. Giant hogweed sap contains toxins that cause severe photodermatitis. Skin contact followed by sunlight exposure results in painful blisters and scars that can last for years. It's illegal to plant or allow to grow in New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and several other states. The UK classifies it under the Wildlife and Countryside Act, making it illegal to plant or allow to spread. Violations can result in fines up to $40,000 in some jurisdictions. The plant looks like Queen Anne's lace on steroids. White flower clusters, purple spotted stems, can grow 15 feet tall. If you find this on your property, do not touch it with bare hands. Contact local agricultural extension offices for proper removal procedures. Plant 9. Pueraria Montana, Kudzu. Illegal to plant in many U.S. states, classified as a federal noxious weed. Kudzu grows 1 foot per day during growing season. It smothers trees, collapses structures, and transforms landscapes into monoculture wastelands. While you won't go to prison for having kudzu, you can be legally compelled to eradicate it at your expense. Failure to comply results in fines and potential property liens. In Mississippi and Alabama, kudzu eradication is enforced by county agricultural agents with legal authority to enter property and impose removal costs on landowners. Plant 10. Cytisus Scoparius, Scotch broom. Banned or restricted in Washington, Oregon, California, and multiple provinces in Canada. Scotch broom produces toxic alkaloids, outcompetes native species, and increases wildfire risk due to high oil content. In Oregon, property owners are required by law to remove Scotch broom and can be fined for non-compliance. The state can place liens on property if removal costs aren't paid. Yellow pea-like flowers in spring. Green ridged stems that remain green all year round. Once established, it creates monoculture stands. Section 4. The surprising garden plants. Plant 11. Ricinus communis, castor bean. This ornamental plant produces ricin, one of the most toxic substances known. Castor beans are legal to grow in most places, but extraction of ricin is a federal crime under the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act. Possession of extracted ricin carries a mandatory minimum sentence. Here's where it gets dangerous. Simply growing the plants can be used as evidence in terrorism-related investigations if found in conjunction with extraction materials. In 2013, a Mississippi woman was arrested for sending ricin-laced letters to officials. The castor bean plants in her garden were cited as evidence of premeditation. The plants are tall, with distinctive palm-shaped leaves and spiky seed pods. They're sold legally at many nurseries for ornamental purposes. If you grow them, understand the legal implications. Never attempt to process the seeds. Plant 12. Conium maculatum, poison hemlock. Illegal to cultivate in several U.S. states. Classified as a noxious weed in many agricultural zones. This is the plant that killed Socrates. All parts are lethally toxic. Poison hemlock looks similar to edible plants like wild carrot and parsley. Accidental poisonings occur regularly. Livestock deaths are common. In states where it's classified as noxious, property owners must eradicate it. Fines for non-compliance range from $500 to $5,000 depending on jurisdiction. White, umbrella-shaped flower clusters, purple spotted stems, grows 6 to 10 feet tall, emits a musty, unpleasant odor when crushed. Plant 13. Datura stramonium, Jimson weed. Illegal to cultivate in Louisiana, restricted in various other states. Datura contains tropane alkaloids, scopolamine, hyoscyamine, and atropine. All parts of the plant are toxic and hallucinogenic. Emergency room visits from Datura ingestion are common. The line between psychoactive dose and lethal dose is dangerously thin. While most states don't criminalize mere possession of the growing plant, cultivating it in quantity can trigger investigation for drug manufacturing. Large trumpet-shaped white or purple flowers, spiky seed pods, rank smell, often grows in disturbed soil. Section 5. The agricultural threats. Plant 14. Solanum viarum, tropical soda apple. Federal noxious weed. Illegal to transport across state lines. This invasive nightshade species devastates pastureland and is nearly impossible to control once established. Florida law makes it illegal to plant, propagate, or possess tropical soda apple. Violations carry fines up to $500 per plant. The plant spreads through cattle, which eat the fruit and deposit seeds in manure. One plant produces 50,000 seeds annually. Spiny stems and leaves, yellow fruits that look like small tomatoes, white flowers. Plant 15. Solanum carolinense, horse nettle. Classified as a noxious weed in multiple states. While you won't be arrested for having this in your yard, agricultural properties can face enforcement action. The plant is toxic to livestock and produces allelopathic chemicals that inhibit crop growth. In agricultural zones of Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska, landowners are required to control horse nettle and can be fined for non-compliance. Yellow fruits, prickly stems, white or pale purple star-shaped flowers. Plant 16. Cirsium arvensis, Canada thistle. Despite the name, it's a European species, classified as a noxious weed in 43 U.S. states. Property owners in agricultural areas are legally required to control it. County weed boards have authority to enforce eradication, impose fines, and in some cases enter property to remove plants and bill the owner. In Minnesota, failure to control noxious weeds can result in fines up to $1,000 and misdemeanor charges. Purple flower heads, spiny leaves, spreads aggressively through underground roots.
Section 6. The one in your yard. Plant 17. Aegopodium podagraria, bishop's weed or gout weed. Here it is, the plant that's probably in your yard right now. Bishop's weed is sold at nurseries as a ground cover. It's attractive, hardy, and fills in shaded areas where grass won't grow. It's also classified as a prohibited noxious weed in Connecticut and restricted in multiple other states. Why? Because it's virtually indestructible once established. It spreads through rhizomes and every tiny fragment can regenerate. It escapes garden beds, invades natural areas, and outcompetes native species. In Connecticut, selling, distributing, or transporting bishop's weed is illegal. While homeowners aren't typically prosecuted for having it, nurseries face fines for selling it. But here's the real issue. If you have bishop's weed and it spreads to protected natural areas or neighboring properties, you can be held liable for remediation costs and damages. There have been civil cases where homeowners were sued for thousands of dollars because their ornamental ground cover invaded a neighbor's yard or natural preserve. How to identify it?
Variegated green and white leaves. Grows in dense mats. White umbrella-shaped flower clusters in summer. Spreads aggressively. If you have this plant, check your local regulations. In restricted areas, remove it before it becomes a legal liability. 17 plants. Some carry felony charges, others trigger fines and mandatory removal. At least one is probably growing somewhere within 100 feet of where you're standing. The law doesn't care if you didn't know. I bought it at a nursery isn't a legal defense. It was already here when I moved in doesn't eliminate liability. Your responsibility as a property owner includes knowing what's growing on your land. Here's what you need to do today. Walk your property. Check against this list. Look up your local noxious weed regulations and remove anything that poses legal risk. This isn't fear-mongering. These are real laws with real consequences that affect real people every single year. The Green Vines doesn't exist to scare you. We exist to inform you, to give you knowledge that protects you and your property. Knowledge is the difference between a beautiful garden and a legal nightmare. Now you have that knowledge. What you do with it is up to you.